Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Stock Market Today for Wednesday, December 11th. It's Alissa Coram here, along with my colleague Ken Shreve, and we're going to break down the action in today's session where the Nasdaq hit a pretty significant milestone, Ken, after the latest CPI data.
Yeah, no surprises in the CPI data. So the market took that as a good thing. The Nasdaq crossed the 20,000 level for the first time. So really a nice day for stocks. I wanted to start by taking a look at Vertiv, VRT. Also want to take a look at airlines. They a lot of them continue to outperform here. So SkyWest, regional carrier, SKYW, and then finish up with Norwegian Cruise Line, NCLH.
All right. Well, we will take a look at those stocks, but first, let's take a closer look at the major indexes. Here is that NASDAQ composite closing the day up 1.8%. And as Ken mentioned, above that 20,000 mark, thanks in part, I think, to Google, other major tech names really fueling the gains there. Meanwhile, the S&P 500 was up 0.8% on the day, getting back above the 10-day moving average. On the downside, the Dow down about 0.2%, so sliding slightly below the 21-day line. And over in small caps, we saw a gain of 0.7%, bouncing off of the 21-day line. Ken, let's start with the NASDAQ. Your thoughts, because underneath the surface, we've been seeing concerns for growth investors, but the Nasdaq comes roaring back today.
Yeah, and I think you have to pay attention to that. We got a rare distribution day for the Nasdaq on Monday. That's when it dropped about 0.6% in higher volume, and then it was 2 days in a row, really, on Monday and Tuesday, where growth stocks really got hit hard and left some wondering if this was the time the market's going to pull back. But during a really sharp sell-off on Monday and Tuesday for growth stocks, you could see the Nasdaq didn't even touch its 10-day moving average. So outside of the distribution day on Monday, it was still holding above short-term support levels. This power trend is still very much intact. So, not a whole lot of volume behind the Nasdaq today, but again, we're in kind of that seasonally, kind of a low volume period for the market, but just a really solid day for the Nasdaq, and dealing with a lot of tech stocks that are quite extended, but seeing some that are starting to come back down to support levels. So that's a good thing. You just need to be careful still about chasing stocks that are too extended. But great day for the Nasdaq.
Well said, Ken. Let's get your thoughts on the S&P 500.
Yeah, I mean, another index, it closed below the 10-day moving average yesterday, and was again weighed down by some selling in growth stocks. It wasn't just on the Nasdaq, but still holding above that 21-day line, which is very close to the 6,000 level. So should be a pretty solid support level if the S&P were to pull down to 6,000 in the 21-day line. But pretty solid performance for this benchmark index as well. Was looking at breadth on the NYSE. It was positive. It did improve as the day wore on. Not quite 2-to-1 positive for both exchanges on the NYSE and the Nasdaq. So positive breadth. But we've been disappointed in that. Talked about that a little bit on IBD Live. But boy, you have the indexes still holding quite well here.
Yeah, another measure of breadth is to look at the equal weighted S&P 500 ETF RSP, and look at this, Ken, closing basically at close of the day up less than 0.1%, which definitely pales in comparison to the S&P 500's gain of 0.8% today.
Yeah, it's a good. We look at these equal weighted ETFs a lot, and on days when breadth maybe isn't what you want to see, that is a good lesson today, because the S&P was up 0.8%, and you can see just a very very modest gain for RSP. I think it was the same for QQEW as well.
Yeah, let's take a look.
Lagged the Nasdaq. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, not as bad. Nasdaq Composite was up 1.8%. This is the Nasdaq 100 equal weight, up about 0.9%. So, overall, this uptrend looks good. I think we have to give credit to our market strategist Webby. He's been, pounding the table bullish for quite some time, and he's been exactly right, and just reminding us that at this point, when you're looking at the technical health of the market, it's really just about the 21-day moving average for the Nasdaq and the S&P 500, and you got a little ways to go to pull back to that level, but the
Mhm.
uptrend still looks very strong here.
Yeah, I mean, after today, at least on the index level, it does feel more like that 1999 precedent again to me, Ken.
Yes, it does. Yeah, we also want to just keep an eye out on where the Nasdaq is in relation to its 50-day moving average, and I
Right.
didn't check that
Let's check
percentage
it.
uh, today. So it's still 6.5%, not extended yet, but getting up there. So, but listen, if we just get these low volume pullbacks during an uptrend, I think there's reason to be optimistic about the year-end rally is going to continue. But just a solid day overall for the market.
Yeah. Okay, let's take another look underneath the surface. You mentioned growth stocks really taking it on the chin Monday and Tuesday. Here's a look at the FFTY IBD 50 ETF. So, this is your quality growth stock index bouncing back today more than the NASDAQ, even. So, up almost 2% after big declines Monday and Tuesday, Ken.
Yeah, this was encouraging to see, and we mentioned growth stocks really had a tough time on Monday and Tuesday, and you can see that was reflected in FFTY, which is sort of our proxy for how top-rated growth stocks are doing in the market. But it was good to see 50 bounce back today. You mentioned up 2%, and still back above its 21-day moving average. So nice recovery for growth stocks in general today.
Hmm. And let's also take a look at XLU. This is the Sector Spider Utilities ETF. What are you seeing here, Ken? Because it looks like, we've seen a deterioration here in that relative strength line.
Yeah, no doubt. It was funny, there are 11 sectors that the S&P tracks, and today there were five that were up and six that were down. So again, just kind of highlighting maybe some that weak breadth in the market. But you had utilities lag quite a bit. Probably not a big surprise as money flowed into a lot of these large cap tech stocks. You also had consumer staples lag, material stock, and then healthcare stocks. A really another bad day for XLV. Apparently, there's a bipartisan bill that wants health insurers like Cigna, CI, to sell their pharmacies, and that fueled a lot of selling in the healthcare sector. So, not surprising to see healthcare stocks lag as a group today.
Yeah. And let's check back in on SMH, the chip sector ETF. We know this one's been on the ropes coming down to that 200-day line, but we got a bounce here today as well, up almost 2.5%. So, some outperformance today, although underperformance for sure since July.
Yeah, good way to describe it. It is on the ropes. The two highest weighted names here are Nvidia and Taiwan Semi. Nvidia had a good day today. That had a pretty bearish session yesterday. Kind of fell below its 50-day moving average. An outside day. Volume was higher than the prior session, but a nice recovery today, albeit in light volume. I think it did manage to close just above its 50-day line. So Nvidia is still fighting a good fight here. And again, tomorrow we've got a very high profile earnings report in the chip sector. Another big AI player, Broadcom, AVGO. That one had a nice day today. Good volume push as it cross that 180 level. So I think this will be an important earnings report for the market. When Nvidia reported recently, it was sort of a ho hum reaction by the market, but we'll see what Broadcom has to say Thursday after the close.
Right. And NVIDIA, full disclosure, I do own it. I think it's at a critical juncture. You've got these moving averages that have now all converged, that 50-day and the 21-day and the 10-day, all important levels that we look at. and it's right at the top of that prior base around 140. So can we see uh, that Avago, the Broadcom news, be a potential catalyst for Nvidia or the sector? We'll have to see. But I do think that it is at a critical level here. Maybe you can draw a trend line or just a bounce above that 50-day line as a potential area to get in for those who are interested, but it has been underperforming over the last couple of weeks here. So understandable that there is money rotating to the other mega caps. I mean, you mentioned Google, Ken. This quite a powerhouse this week.
Yeah, yeah, we put Alphabet on leaderboard yesterday, and got some really nice follow through today. So we were pleasantly surprised by the stock's strength today. It was good volume behind the breakout yesterday, and even better volume today. So really a bullish day for Alphabet.
Yeah.
It's not going to take much for Nvidia to break out of this downtrend either. I mean, like we mentioned, it
Right.
was not a great looking day for the stock yesterday, outside day and higher volume. But again, we're not going to take much to for this to break out of a downtrend. So we'll see if we get
Yeah.
more positive sentiment tomorrow in tech, and maybe get some really strong numbers from Broadcom. Nvidia could fix itself pretty quickly here.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Okay, let's take a look at VRT. This is in the electrical power equipment group. It's had a great move this year, Ken, and it seems like with rotation and growth stocks coming under pressure, something that is part of that AI theme and on the power generation side is one to look at for a potential bounce after a pullback.
Yeah, this is a leaderboard stock, and it's not a Nasdaq listed name, but it is certainly a tech company. So, we haven't seen enough of a pullback in the market to see bases being built, but we are starting to see stocks like Vertiv, big leaders that had nice breakouts, come down to their 10-week moving average. For the first time. So I'm going to just kind of keep an eye on this. This is a stock that we may decide to increase in the leaderboard portfolio. We'll see what the test of this 10-week line looks like by the end of the week, but showing good action at that support level. You could say it's either the first or the second test. I look at that first visit to the 10-week line, really look at that almost as a breakout. So I would look at the most recent price action as a first test of the 10-week line. So if we can see Vertiv close in the top half of its weekly range by the end of the week, I think that's making a good case. It's holding support, and good opportunity to maybe start a small position.
Okay, elsewhere, let's take a look at SkyWest, which is also testing support at its 10-week line for the first time after a breakout going back a couple of weeks here, Ken. And this is a strong stock in the transportation airline group, which is ranked number 14 now out of the 197 groups that we track as we continue to see this strong momentum out of the travel sector.
Very strong. I mean, the airline group is performing very well. A lot of these companies are looking at pretty good years in 2025. SkyWest is a regional carrier. They also have a leasing business, and they also have partnerships with a lot of the major airlines. So you really do have a compelling earnings story here for SkyWest. If you look at just recent growth, look down and see some triple digit earnings gains. Yep, and the revenue growth has really kicked in here. So fundamentals are pretty compelling here. This is another example of a first test of the 10-week moving average. So SkyWest is kind of up near its weekly high. This is looking like a very solid first test. Relative strength line, even during the pullback, is not that far from highs. So for an airline stock, this one looks to be a leader that is still showing good technicals here.
Okay. And another travel name, NCLH, because we've also seen cruise lines cruising ahead in recent months. And this is in the leisure services group. It's number 23 out of the 197 groups that we track. So, yet another bounce off of the 10-week. I see what you're doing here, Ken.
Yeah, a common theme, but I think it's important. You know, you this is a sign that the market is still acting healthy, and excuse me, you want to pay attention to these stocks that really strong price performers. I mean, Norwegian is a big leader among the cruise line operators, and this one had a great breakout. Didn't really come down and touch the 10-week moving average until this week. It didn't quite touch the line, but to me, this looks like a first test in Spirit, and another stock that is really showing strong
Mhm.
technicals in this market. So again, right now, it's not about looking at stocks that are forming bases and maybe poised to break out. You'll find some of those here and there, but you really want to focus on the leaders in the industry group and which ones are coming down to their 10-week lines for the first time and finding support. There seems to be a pretty good crop of stocks doing that, and I think it's encouraging for this uptrend.
Mhm. So in terms of where it's buyable, Ken, if traders didn't get into it today, what should they be looking for?
I think they can look at it tomorrow, and if it's still kind of floating around, where it is and holding around these short-term moving averages, I would look at it as just a really solid first test of or near first test of the 10-week moving average. And again, you don't want to see by the end of the week if the market starts selling off and you see a weekly, you see the stock down for the week and closes in the bottom half of its range. That would tell me, well, maybe support is
Mhm.
still being tested here. But right now, with the stock up near its weekly high, showing a lot of strength.
Great. All right, Ken. Well, thank you so much as always. Your comments always appreciated.
See you back here tomorrow, same time.
Yeah. See you tomorrow. All right, everyone. That is it from us for today. And as Ken mentioned, we'll be back tomorrow with more, starting with IBD Live 10 minutes before the opening bell. Investors.com/IBD Live for all of those details. We hope you join us. It's lots of fun every morning. And even when the market is crazy and selling off, we still manage to make it fun. So we'll see you there, investors.com/IBD Live. Don't forget the podcast today, live at 5 p.m. Eastern on YouTube. We've got Justin Nielsen, our host, joined by one of the contenders for the top performance in this year's US Investing Championship. His portfolio is up more than 900% for the year through November. So we'll get the insights on how he was able to have a successful year, the setups and the themes that he's been looking at, and how he's handling the current market. I'm sure he's been interested and in a lot of these high flying growth names that we've seen come under pressure this week. So make sure to check that out for all the latest on this successful investors strategies that's happening live at 5 on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. That's it for today, everyone. And we'll see you back here tomorrow.